Alright, the spring and roller kit's not fitting properly in here. So I'm going to reuse the old springs. They still look really good shape. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to change the rollers out. Since I had to pull this out, I went ahead and pulled the washer out that goes in the back of the case. That's what it looks like. 2 tabs fit down in there. And then the spring cage just sits down inside there. The race has this step area, faces down. And then our rollers, I think I can get up in there. The rollers just go on the front side of the springs. So it would be to the left of the spring. The first few are pretty easy to get in. It's when you start getting to the other side where it starts getting to be a pain. I don't know why the springs are not fitting in there properly, but they are not. Par for the course with all the parts here lately. It's just become a ridiculous situation. Once it starts getting really hard, you can start turning the race, kind of hold it over, and it'll reposition them rollers. And you get a couple more in, then you're gonna have to do it again. Eventually you can get them all in there. Alright, now that last one, that's usually the hardest to get in. There we go. Alright, once you get it all in there, you're going to be turning freely clockwise and locking counterclockwise. Throw all this away. Case up here, we'll go ahead and put our servo in. Let's see if I can clean that up a little bit. One of the biggest things he took offense to is the fact I didn't grease my servo. Spring. There's our servo. find the right bolts here. I'm gonna have to go find me a couple because they got them on the for the shifter out there, so I'll have to go get them from the R&R guy. There's our tag. Alright, I'm just going to go grab a couple extra. Alright, this is our O-ring for our servo. You might have to stretch it out a little bit. I leave this dry because it keeps the O-ring on here better. It won't slide off there. ½ inch on these. And let's see if we can make this thing stand up. If I can get it to do it on camera. Yeah, we'll try that right there. Spring sits down in this pocket right here. We got 2 flat O-rings, different sizes for which servo you have. This one is an H. Pick the one that's the closest to the size of your diameter here, but a little bit smaller. See, we got the H on here also. The gasket goes on here. All right. There we go. It's decided to cock on me. All right, so get this off of here. We got our feed port right here. This gasket's going to go right there. And these are our bolts for it. May have to get this down here where I can get to it. I don't know, maybe got it. I put my tag up here, and let's see what we got on here, if I can read this. And we'll try to decipher this later. Get something to write this on. Looks like we got PEF, AT1, K2BB, and we got D9AP, dash MB. Alright. And I just put this right up here and leave it kind of tucked out of the way. Backwards. Go ahead and do our lever seal while we're here. Seven-eighths. Let's see if we can prop this up. Get this on camera. I think that'll work. Alright, we can take this off. If you're doing this with the valve body on there, you're gonna have to loop your, you're gonna have to take that off, and you're gonna have to loop your wrench around in here. Since we have the valve body off, we can go ahead and just pull this out. Depending on what year you got, what style manual valve you got, it determines what rooster comb that you have and what the shape of this is in here, and it determines what kind of bearing you need on here, what kind of linkage you're going to have. Not really happy with the way they did this linkage. I got a baby heel bar, lady's foot, whatever you want to call it. Just get in there and pop the seal out. Alright, the linkage seal is going to go this side in. Put some grease on there if you want to. Drive it in flush. It's going to hook back into here. You got your, so I'll go ahead and show that. Got these flats on here. It's gonna hook right there. Alright, then you want to get this tight, but don't just keep cranking down on it, because you will pull that right off of there. Alright, on the front side of this linkage here is an O-ring, a little fat O-ring. I guess I should say weight challenged O-ring. And you're just going to put that around the shaft. Push it up in there with the little pocket screwdriver. And this linkage usually is pointing up. Not sure how they had that on this one. Oh, I forgot I got to put all their little junk they put on here. I would show you the linkage, but you should never see one that looks the way this thing does. A ½ inch on that nut. Let's see here. We can go ahead and put our rear band in. It's going to sit in this way. I guess I should have put the governor support and all that in first. I guess I ought to do that first. It might stay up in there, it might not. We need our actuator, and our pivot pin, and our spring. Alright, actuator, pivot pin. This is going to loop down there. Springs are going to go right there. This is going to hook up in that little slot right there. Make sure that this spring is down around this area right here. Otherwise it's going to get pinched and your actuator is going to get stuck and you're not going to have torque. Pardon my mess, I've got 5 transmissions that are halfway built waiting on parts. I got stuff strung out everywhere. Alright, put your washer on the back. Put your gear down. Put your long tube in the top, short tube in the bottom. 2 holes right there where your tubes are going to go. There goes the band. Shouldn't be too surprising. Four 1/2-inch bolts. Alright. We'll take our sealant rings off. There are different tooth count output shafts for your speedometer gear, so make sure if you're swapping that out that you're getting the same one. If I remember correctly, there's 7, 8, and 9 teeth. Be careful taking your sealant rings off. A lot of times in the kit you'll get a broken ring, so you may need to reuse one. I got one on this 475W yesterday. One of the pump rings was busted in half. You do have to be careful with your sealant rings also. Usually these green ones are supposed to be seal power, but this is a different colored green. I don't think this is a seal power rings. But you do have to be careful. We did have a patch back in the 80s where at the time they were called Repco. It wasn't a trans story yet. Actually, had been through several names since then, but anyhow, they started buying these, I think they were from Taiwan, these sealant ring kits. And it wasn't just for Ford, but the Fords were the worst, where you put these sealant rings on and you might not even make it around the block. And the sealant rings were dissolving, and that was a nightmare. It like to put a lot of people out of business. Every single transmission was coming back because these sealant rings were gone. Sometimes, like I said, you wouldn't even get to deliver it. You wouldn't even get around the block, and you pull it out and the sealant ring would be either gone or half gone. Sometimes it was up to 6, 7 months later they were coming back dissolved, but every single one came back. So you do have to be careful. You want to use a good ring. You don't want to use a crappy one. Put your output shaft in. And put our band back up in there. I'm going to go ahead and get this band strut, even though you can't get it in there. You can go ahead and put it up in there. And then we're going to put our band and drum. Just band drum goes with this end in. Alright, then we got a 3-tab washer. It's going to go in the back here. Three holes in there for the washer to sit on. Then we're going to put our ring gear in. And we got our snap ring. We're going to put the short end of the taper out towards us. We got a 3-tab washer, goes on the back of our Planet. Put our Planet in. And we got a 3-tab washer, goes on the front. Alright. Done with that for the momentary. Let's see if we can get this somewhat out the way. There's green paint coming off on this thing. Alright, we'll do our direct drum first. So we're going to stack this all up. So we might as well start at the beginning. Okay, I just love these kits nowadays. Half my stuff is not here. Okay, my lip seal is not here for this drum. They put it in with the servo. I don't know why they did that. Make sure that you don't roll that. It's a flat O-ring like that. So is the outside. Pick the one that's the closest. About the same. I'll make sure that check ball's rattling around. Sure you don't cut it on the way in. Return spring. Retainer. Snap ring with the short end of the taper up towards us. Alright, put our steels. Usually the direct clutches are waffled like that. If we have a cutout, we're going to keep those all together. snap ring. Clearance is good. The forward drum is going to sit on top. This bushing here rides on the drum. This one is an O-ring. Check ball again, make sure it rattles. Depending on which style you got a lip seal or you got a flat. This one's flat. Make sure you don't cut this again on the way in. Got this wire ring, it has a split in it. We got our bevel plate. We want that split in that ring to be in the center of one of those. Flat snap ring. Gonna be difficult today. According to some, that's tool abuse. Our bottom pressure plate is facing down. Forward clutches are usually smooth. Here again, if we got cutouts, we're going to keep them all together. And maybe it is tool abuse, but it's mine to abuse. Alright, flat snap ring again. Looking good there. We got this washer that sit on top. These tabs are going to go right there. These feet go on the outside. Now this is the way I do mine. You can do yours how you want to. You can stack this in the case if you want to. I find that it's very easy to break a pump ring when you're putting it in. So this is why I do it the way I do it. It makes it a little bit harder to stuff it in the case, but I don't break any pump rings. And make sure it's all the way down. Got our washer, goes on the front. I also got this washer that goes in the back of the Planet when they had to put that on now. As a lot of times you can't get it back up in there. You need to play on your pinions in order to get that in and out of there. You know, usually they'll just fall right out, but getting them back in is another thing. Almost. There we go. You want that lip facing out towards you. And our washer, that goes down. Sun shell on top. Make sure all your gaskets off. Let me find the right bushing driver. Alright, 42 for mine. Book never says, but I find that most of these, you see how that oil groove right there and this little notch. This one I got up here, but usually it's right down in there. So they're pretty close. And it's usually pointing back towards the back. So that's the way I put them in. So I'm going to go press this in. And I got to press my front seal in. So I'm going to press my front seal in like that, and I'll be back. The outer gear can go either way. I usually put the dot up. The inner gear has these bevels. They face down. We'll line up our feed holes. Half inch. Alright, we got selective washer for our pump. Make sure the tabs line up in the slots. You're going to have two different size sealing rings depending on what year you got. These are the ones you really want to be careful not break because they're easy to break when you install. check them in the ring lands and make sure that they fit. And one is the wrong ones. Yeah.
Did you see that building that collapsed in Florida?
Yeah.
That's messed up, huh?
I've watched it several times, and
they were all sleeping, man.
If you watch really close, I don't know. It looks like there was some explosions. I think it was demoed. Somebody blew it up.
Yeah, that's possible. But they were complaining. I mean, they were supposed to do inspection. I was watching the news this morning. They were supposed to do an inspection. Apparently, there were some people complaining about it. And they were working on the roof too. They had heavy equipment on the roof as well. I don't know. That's messed up. 99 people missing. They're buried somewhere in there. It's a bad way to go.
Yeah. Alright, if you look in here, there's a cut plug that's got an orifice in it. These are the two holes that are two tabs of this washer go in. You want to make sure that orifice cut plug can come out through right there. Our gasket goes on the front here. You can either glue it on, or you can just put some sealant on it. I usually just put some grease on around it, hold it in place. And line up our holes. And we'll put our drums on. And we put our input shaft in from the front. That helps hold all this together. Make sure that's backwards. There we go. Now that's all together. Put your band around here, and you can either hold this in with your hand, or you can get something to hold that together. Alright, 9/16 on those. Check our end play. Plenty good. Get this out the way. Try to keep this from rolling around. Alright, bring our band up around. And we can put our struts in. This little strut goes in the back. Little notch in the band goes in there. This goes in the notch in the band. This goes in the servo right here. Strut goes over here. And depending on what year you got, some of these were fine thread. I don't remember what the book calls for, but I usually set these around a turn and a half. I'll go look and see what it calls for in a minute. I mostly go by feel and sight. Tighten it down all the way. And so it did not give me any band nuts. I don't waste all my camera time trying to find some nuts. I found one. I am really sick and tired of this parts crap. This is just insanely stupid. Quarter, a half, 3/4, 1/4, 1.5. That's about right. Let's go ahead and air check this thing. Go ahead and back this one out. 1.5. Alright, that all looks good. I'm going to leave that adjustment right where it's at. I'm going to hit that with an impact because these like to come out. I'm just going to leave that right there for right now. Go ahead and put our modulator valve in. Goes in over here. Get our pin. And see what our pin is measuring. It's 1 inch 6/15. Let's see what I got in my book as to what it's supposed to be. Inch 633. I call for band adjustments to be coarse threads 1.5, fine threads 3.5. So I'm 1.5, so we're good. Let's see, let's find my tool. Not that one. Here we go. Tech Pack Fits All T-0162MP. You're going to get some pins in here that you can grind down to make your own modulator pins. But it comes with a tool, and it's supposed to tell you what you're supposed to put in there. Let's see what it comes up with. And all it is this telescoping pin right here. You just set it out, put that in the end of your modulator there, shove that into the case and bottom it out into the valve. Be careful when you pull it back out. Careful not to move it, and you just measure what you got. And it says inch 611, so we're a little bit longer, should be fine. If need be, we got shifting problems, we'll come back to right there. I think we'll be just fine. Put our modulator pin in there. I also make sure that once it's in there that we are bottomed up against it, that the valve will not move before it touches the pin. You want to make sure it's right on it. We move our linkages up. We're going to have to line up this lever right here to right here, and that pin right there to the manual valve. And I'm going to have to turn this to where I can see. It helps to have the linkage on there. It helps you get this up into there. If not, you can use a pair of pliers. Alright, 3/8. I'm about to run out of battery, so what I do on my pans is I take and I put them on the edge of the bench here, and I take a hammer. Let me go get a pan real quick and show you. Too bad. I get the pan rim and get right there, flatten that out, do that all the way around. I'm going to take a thin layer of silicone on these old pans. They always leak, so I'll put a thin layer of silicone here, put my gasket on, and I'll torque it down. And once I get all that done, I'll be back. I gotta change batteries. Down and dirty of this, since it decided not to record. is sometimes you get this little filter, it goes in here, you can leave it out if you want to. This is the weight that goes in here. Spring's going to sit down in that pocket. And you make sure this is super free. I mean super free. That valve ain't bouncing around. You need to keep working on it. And you got this clip. Spring's going to fit around that little tip right there. These feet are going to face out towards you. Once you got that in there, make damn sure that this is nice and free. This one here. Got this weight. Spring. Washer. The clip, you want the short end of the taper facing out towards you. Make sure we get down into that groove. And then again, make sure your governor's nice and free. This feed hole right here. Make sure it lines up with that feed hole right there. Three-eighths. Gasket. Tail housing, already got the rear seal in it. This bracket goes on the top. .9/16 on these tail housing bolts. Time for you to fight me today. This bracket, the modulator, is going to be held in by it, so make sure those 2 feet are up against the modulator right there. Speedometer O-ring. Filler tube O-ring. This one doesn't take it, so because it screws into the pan. These 2 little O-rings go in underneath the cooler line fittings. Make sure they're in there. 5/8 on the bell housing. Large bells bolt out here, small bells bolt in here. Okay, that will be it for this one. We'll catch you on the next one. Okay, you got a 218 thousandths ball that goes here, one that goes here. And leave this loose until everything gets put together. Then we got a 218 thousandths ball here. And we got this little puck that goes right here. Yeah, just situated right. It's our little tag for identification on our valve body. You can leave this loose until you get your valve body bolts lined up, and you're putting this on the case, and then you can tighten this down. I'm going to make sure this is centered in your linkage. .3/8 back here. Alright, we're going to make sure our plate's lined up. Once everything's lined up, we can go ahead and tighten it down. Got this little relief puck, goes in facing down, spring on top. Our filter has to have this tab on it. .8 millimeters, or 5/16 actually, since this is American. I'm so used to calling out metric stuff. Same thing basically. Slight difference in size. Alright, line that up and tighten it down. Just don't forget to tighten that down when we get it on the transmission. Let me double check, make sure I got that one tight. Alright,